Monsters often get a bad rap. Throughout human history, they've been blamed by humans for all sorts of offenses, imagined or otherwise, and even used to scare misbehaving kids into submission. These days though, they primarily exist for our entertainment pleasure. And as a gamer, I can honestly say that none can be quite as entertaining as the denizens that inhabit the world of Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate. The latest in the popular monster hunting series from the Land of the Rising Sun, Ultimate takes all the juicy bits from predecessors Monster Hunter Tri and Monster Hunter Portable 3rd and adds some extra spice in the form of new monsters, gear, and maps to create the most polished iteration of the franchise to date. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I'm a pretty big fan of this series and even bought a Japanese 3DS during a trip to Japan early last year just to play this game. In short, I might be a bit biased, but that's usually what happens to people who play this game long enough until everything just clicks. So as the title so obviously implies, this game is all about hunting monsters. Yes, there's a story mode where your character is burdened with the grand task of saving a coastal village from monstrous ruin, but honestly, playing Monster Hunter for the story is like saying you watch Keanu Reeves' movies for his emotional acting range. Even all the stuff you do on the side, like farming for honey, insects, and all sorts of magical shrooms that would put a smile on Cheech and Chong's face, well, those are there to help you set up your hunting exploits as well. Why hunt, you ask? The more obvious answer is so you could obtain materials to craft all sorts of weapons and cool looking armor. Yeah, check that out, baby. The real answer, however, is because the hunts are a boatload of fun. Granted, newcomers will likely be thoroughly abused by the game's larger monsters at first thanks to a high learning curve. Some may even quit once they hit the first wall against a Baroth or Raytheon. Coming in from the Phantasy Star Online series of games prior to playing Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, I was baffled by the clunky controls and wondered if the developers were purposefully trying to make players mad. Like developing a taste for raw sushi or sashimi, however, I thought there must be a reason why so many Japanese folks like this game. So I decided to persevere, and slowly but surely, things started to click. What I initially thought as slow and cumbersome combat mechanics turned out to be excellent game design based on mastering move timing. You can't just spam buttons against the game's lineup of big bad bosses and expect to come out alive. Every attack needs to have purpose as well as a healthy sense of anticipation of the next enemy strike so you can stop and move to avoid it but still be close enough to engage and continue your offensive. Even the arm flexing animation after healing that rooted you on the spot and irritated me to no end because it left you vulnerable to enemy attacks is there for a reason. Primarily to avoid heal spamming. Every move you make has consequence, which gives it purpose and more meaning as you really have to be responsible for your actions. If I could give one piece of advice to beginners, it's don't be greedy. The bulk of enemy attacks I've eaten in this game could typically be boiled down to trying to get in one more extra attack than I should due to impatience. Once you get it though, Monster Hunter gameplay becomes a savory delight. And oh by the way, sushi and sashimi taste freaking good. You start out with some pretty sparse gear that makes you feel like you're wearing paper armor and tickling your enemy to death. But just as you slowly work your way up in difficulty against stronger monsters, you also start getting access to better gear, including some cool looking armor sets and even mix and match versions that get certain skill combos you normally don't see together or get something like Awakening before fighting the bigger monsters of G rank. Yeah, I admit, this isn't the best looking combination out there, but hey, it works. Weapons, which range from swords and hammers to lances and bowguns, also improve to deal more damage, a necessity when you move up to high rank and the aforementioned G rank. Monsters, meanwhile, start dealing more damage with some exhibiting increased speed and additional movesets. While you can certainly tackle any quest by your lonesome, playing in groups is a lot more fun and makes harder missions more manageable. Wii U players can play with other Wii U players online or locally with 3DS players. The 3DS version does not have online play right off the bat, but can be connected to a Wii U via an app to play online, which is different from the aforementioned local co-op. Using the 3DS online, however, means the Wii U can't be used to play at the same time. In fact, the online limitations for the 3DS is what I consider to be the most disappointing aspect of Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate so far. There's also a dual boss glitch I've seen a couple of times where a second boss monster suddenly dies once it enters a map when playing multiplayer. Overall though, Monster Hunter Ultimate is a lot of fun. It's also the most accessible Monster Hunter to date. That's thanks to the nerfing of lower ranked versions of certain boss monsters compared to Tri, so newcomers can wade into the monster hunting waters with less trepidation. If you're looking for an action game that's a bit different than the norm, has great multiplayer, and is also highly rewarding, I definitely recommend trying this game out. This is Jason once again, and thank you for checking out my review for Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate for the Nintendo Wii U and 3DS.